Good morning. My name is Bob Gilligan. I'm the Executive Director of the Catholic Conference of Illinois, and thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning. Today, I'm here not only to share the position of the Catholic Conference of Illinois, the Catholic school perspective, but other non-public schools as well in our opposition to House Bill 2827. As you've just heard, House Bill 2827 seeks to impose registration mandates on parents who choose to homeschool their children in an effort to ensure that these homeschool students are safe and receiving a sufficient education. However, it is unclear how this bill will advance either of those goals, and it is also unclear why non-public schools have been included in this legislation under the same pretenses. Why are the non-public schools opposed? First, the bill requires all non-public schools to send, upon request, a list of every student's name, date of birth, grade level, and home address, as well as the name and address of at least one parent or guardian of that child to ISB, the Regional Office of Education, and/or Chicago Public Schools. While the bill states upon request, we see no situation under which this bill will not be a standing annual request for all students enrolled in non-public schools. Further, if a non-public school does not provide their parent, students confidential information, which is considered an educational record under the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, it does so under the threat of losing their ISB registration or recognition status. Requiring non-public schools to provide their educational records to ISB, who can then release that information to the ROE or the local school district where the student resides, requires non-public schools to breach the trust of its parents, as it will be done without their consent. To do this without running afoul of FERPA, an exception must apply. While ISB says this requirement is compliant with FERPA, we disagree with that interpretation. This is critical to iron out because it will be the non-public school, not ISB, not the ROE, not CPS or the local school district, that will have to respond to a parent's complaint. And the non-public school will be subject to a penalty if there's a violation, not any of those public entities. Secondly, the bill requires all non-public schools to register with ISB. Presently, this process is voluntary and it should remain so. The only reason for this change is to require all non-public schools to provide this confidential information to the state at risk of denying their registration. House Bill 2827 places non-public schools between the parent and the government, with no clear understanding as to how this law improves education for non-public students or it makes them safer. Finally, we have a concern about the storage of information. Requiring this information to be stored by governmental units on one or more servers only increases the risk of a data breach, which can be a concern for all parents, public and non-public alike. If ISB has a data breach, like it did during the summer of 2024, all our parents' information is compromised. Similarly, CPS last month announced over 300,000 records of personal identifying information were compromised, going back to the 2017-2018 school year. While it is possible that any one of our schools could have a data breach, if that were to happen, it would probably only impact the students in that public school. Storing information, whether digital or physical, poses significant dangers in addition to data breaches, unauthorized users, loss, theft, and potential misuse. There's a lot of talk right now, especially at the federal government level, about who has access to confidential governmental information. There are legitimate concerns about a small number of people gaining access to sensitive data. With the number of undocumented children in our schools right now, it would be a tragedy for personally identifiable information to wind up with certain government agencies. Truancy and safety of children are challenges for all, those in the homeschool, non-public school, and public school settings alike, and this requires our attention. However, this bill is an intrusion into people's personal identity, making non-public schools and homeschoolers complicit in sharing that information with the government. There has to be a less intrusive way to address these challenges than what House Bill 2827 creates. Thank you for listening to our concerns.